Hey everybody, I wanted to go through the new items and kind of compare them to where they were when um, Riot first introduced them on the Mythics page and see how they've changed and talk about how useful they're going to be with each other, how similar items are going to be competing. So we'll just start right away with Gale Force. Gale Force gives marksman champions a way to dodge high impact skill shots or aggressively finish off low health targets. Before we get let's look at the shot. Super overdue. I've played with this on PvE, and it takes a little while to get used to, but and also the good against thing when I played it was extremely broken. It was giving me completely like random good against these enemies, so if they get that actually figured out, it'll be really helpful for new players learning the game. And I really like this because the recommended items didn't teach you to build situationally. Um, they had like offensive and defensive and core and all that, but it didn't do a very good job of teaching you to build differently for different opponents. Because players just see offensive and defensive and they think, well, I play one of these two ways. So it's probably going to fit my playstyle if I do this or that. So this whole adaptive thing, and I really like this side panel. It makes everything way more efficient, especially with just the horde of new items. I really think it's going to help adjust everything. Help players adjust, help new players get into it, because items got way more complicated, so the shop needs to do a better job of presenting information to the player, which is really good. So first against Gale Force. Gale Force gives 55 AD, 20 attack speed, and 20% critical strike chance. Just compare that to the other items. Gold-wise, they're all 3,400 gold, all the crit items. 60 or 55 higher base stats on Kraken Slayer, and then lowest base stats on Immortal Shield Bow, but it gives the lifesteal. So Gale Force is a really interesting item. It functions a little bit like Proto Belt in terms of it gives you a dash on a cooldown, but it functions as far as the damage goes less like Proto Belt and more like REW or Ezreal E. After you do the dash, it will just target something. 3 missiles, so I think REW is the best comparison, and it deals 180 to 315 based on level. So it looks like it doesn't start scaling until you hit level 10, which I don't think we've had anything like that until this point. As far we've had like it goes up at 6, but we've never had like smooth scaling that starts at a level. 45% bonus AD, damage increase on low health targets by up to 50%. It doesn't give the math for that, but I'm assuming it's just a standard execute ramp. And then grants all legendary items at 3% move speed. Now compare that to Gale Force, which was on a similar cooldown, 90-second cooldown. Firing 3 missiles prior to the lowest health, just like before. But it was 105 to 300 at levels 1 to 18. This is just starting at 180 and goes up to 315. That's quite a bit more damage. 45 rather than 30%. Extra, the scaling. Okay, and this specifies increased against low health target by 50% good targets at 30% or less health. Same mythic passive, stats are the same. When I first saw this here, I couldn't think of a single champion that would ever build this item, save maybe Quinn, and I still don't think she will. The other two items are completely superior. I'm yawning too much. And I think that they will remain that way. I don't think Gale Force is going to be built on a bot lane marksman like ever. In fact, I don't think Kraken Slayer is going to be built on bot lane marksman either. I think they have one option because it's so ridiculously good. We'll get into that. Kraken Slayer is anti-tank, it says, which I don't think that's... These items are going to be much less situational than the other items that were introduced. I think a lot of champions are going to have a mythic that functions best for them, and they're not going to stray from that very often. So looking at Kraken Slayer, it says anti-tank, but I don't think that... I guess it's going to be good against tanks, but that doesn't mean you're going to build it situationally against tanks. Kraken Slayer allows Free Fire Marksman to cut even the beefiest champions down to size. It gives higher base stats with 5 more AD and 5% more attack speed. Every third basic attack deals an additional 60 plus 30% AD true damage. I'm sure some champions that could potentially build this already come to mind. In fact, it's literally just Vayne's W. That's all it is. Grants all other legendary items 10% attack speed. Now, compare this to originally had the same base stats, and it was giving 80 to 20. Well, now it's only giving 60. They sure did bring it down. They gutted it from what it originally was. Like, it scaled to twice as much. So they super underestimated how obnoxious this song was going to be. Holy moly. Yeah. So I don't see any AD carries building this. A lot of times people will see items and think, oh, this fits really well with this champion's playstyle. But sometimes when you take what they already do well and make it better, it doesn't necessarily equal the sum of its parts because the champion already does that thing. So for example, if you want to build it on Vayne to increase your damage output because you're already autoing like that, or say Kog'Maw, I think they're not going to necessarily build that. The reason being is you are already able to pump out absurd amounts of damage when you can auto attack. This item is not going to help you auto attack more often. It is only going to increase a flat amount of damage. I see champions like Tryndamere, Master Yi building this item. Champions that are getting in your face and they're autoing a lot and benefit from crit. I don't see traditional marksman building this item, and that is because of Immortal Shield Bow. Immortal Shield Bow is the item that people have been begging for. AD carries have just wanted this item so bad. The thing about AD carries is there are 3 stats they want early game, and that is attack damage, attack speed, and critical strike chance. And all of these items are giving that to you, all 3 of these, which is really good because previously AD carries were rushing Infinity Edge, which are only giving you 2 of those 3 stats, and that is because Infinity Edge is intentionally a broken item. It is meant to be so strong that you have to build it, and we're moving away from that. Immortal Shield Bow, which gives you even a 4th stat. Now for your first item, stat spread is extremely important, and after you finish that first item, that is when you start speccing into different things. The base stats of an item are most important in your first item, because after that you are scaling up quite a bit with your ability level, with the base stats in your champion's kit inherently. For AD carries though, that can be a little bit different because they are so item reliant. But this is giving them lifesteal as well, and 12% at that. I'm sorry that I'm yawning so much. The passive effect, when taking damage that would reduce you below 30% health, gain a 250 to 700 shield for 3 seconds. Additionally, gain 15% lifesteal for 8 seconds on a 90-second cooldown. This fixes a lot of things. This allows AD carries to survive on their own in a way they haven't before. Or it also grants all of the legendary items 5 AD and 50 health. Originally, I know it was giving, armor and magic resist, and that was too broken. That was insane. Armor and magic resist is better the less you have. So AD carries that are not building armor and MR benefit massive from this. Shields also have incredible synergy with armor and magic resist, because if you get say a 200 health shield, if you have more armor and MR, that 200 health is going to be reduced at a slower rate. So shields and armor and MR work well together. The only exception is when, say, a shield scales with your health, right? So this 50 health isn't going to help the shield at all because it doesn't have any HP scaling. 5 AD and 50 health are still, this 50 health is going to give you survivability. This 5 AD is going to increase your lifesteal input, not by a lot, but the 50 health is going to be nice. This item is going to be built by every traditional critical strike marksman. This is insane. This is straight up the best item for just traditional bot laners, and maybe even more champions than that. This is going to stop you from getting turret dove. It's going to be really hard to dive once champions finish this item. This passive is, like, not only the passive, but the stat spread as well is just superior to the other items. It's 12% lifesteal, makes up for 5 AD and 5% attack speed. 12% lifesteal in terms of just gold is worth far more than 5% attack speed and 5 AD, right? Now, it probably is more comparable to the 10 AD and 10% attack speed different to Kraken Slayer, but that just, once again, puts Gale Force at really the inferior item compared to all of the other items. I really can't see anyone building it other than maybe Quinn. We'll see. I don't think Yasuo will build this item. I think it's really unlikely. I think we see Yasuo building an Immortal Shield Bow. Benefit from that a lot. It likes all these stats, and especially because the critical strike chance does not vary between the three of them. It is 20% across the board. So that is that. Well, Shield Bow has been greatly nerfed compared to what it originally was. 150 to 650 compared to... so the buff on the shield was pretty big. 3 seconds gain 20% lifesteal for 8 seconds, 90-second cooldown. And this has been nerfed a bit. So the shield is quite a bit more than it was originally. 250 when you're below level 10 is nothing to laugh at. That's a really big deal. That is a lot of damage reduction. Sorry. We'll go to the tank items next. Sunfire Aegis is really, really interesting, and it gives ramping damage, which is something that tanks have been sorely missing. Conqueror is a keystone that I hate more than anything else in the game because it really sets bruisers apart from other top laners. And it has forced tank items to become increasingly more damage heavy. But what this does is it allows tanks to compete with Conqueror users. So all of these items, let's see, cost 3,200 gold, I believe. With career base stats, 450, 30 armor, 15 ability paste. Frostfire Gauntlet specs more into armor than into HP, or into magic resist, gives less HP, same amount of ability haste. We have Turbo Chem Tank speccing more into magic resist. Now, I think this is weird. I'm really surprised they didn't just keep the armor and MR equal across the board, because these items differentiate themselves in what you want to get out of them. I'm sorry. Just in the passives, right? I don't think what's going to happen is tanks are going to vary their build, their mythic, based on who they're laning against, right? Like, I don't think people aren't going to build Frostfire Cape because they're against an... Sorry, not Frostfire. Sunfire Aegis because they're against an AD or an AP heavy team. If you're going to build this item, you're going to build this item. You're not going to vary between Frostfire Gauntlet and Turbo Chemtate depending on if you are against an AD laner or a magic damage laner. All this is going to do is make magic damage laners better against champions that want to build Frostfire Gauntlet, and nobody's going to build Turbo Chemtate. Maybe junglers will build this, which is kind of ironic because it's so heavy in magic resist. So let's look at the ramping damage of Sunfire Aegis. Deal 20 to 40 at levels 1 through 18, plus 1% bonus health magic damage per second to nearby enemies, increased by 50% against minions, monsters, 200% against monsters. Damaging champions or epic monsters with this effect adds a stack, increasing subsequent immolate damage by 12% for 5 seconds, max 6 stacks, so that is going to be a maximum of an 82% increase. It's a big boy. 82%, you know, we're looking at like what, 40, no, like 35 to 70-ish, right? Plus 1% bonus health, which is going to be moved up to, you know, 1.8. At max immolate stacks, this is where it's big. Your attacks burn nearby enemies for your immolate damage per second for 3 seconds. Which I'm not sure what that means, but I'm assuming it means once you max it out, you're double dipping on your burn. So when we talk about ramping damage, just ramping items in general, we really haven't seen that be used on tanks in the past because it's dangerous to do so. Ramping damage is most effective for champions that can stay in a fight for longer, and tanks are the ones who can stay in the fight for the longest. This is going to mean in a lot of fights you are going to want to burst down tanks as quickly as you can, and I think an item like Sunfire Aegis is going to make it more difficult to deal with tanks in team fights because they have this ramping damage, and if you let them stay alive for too long, they're going to be an actual damage threat. Now, you know, they inherently already are going to stay alive longer than everybody else. Grants all of their legendary items 5 ability haste. So this, I think, is going to be the item that most tanks build, just like the current Sunfire Cape. This is a catch-all item, and you're going to see that trend quite a bit across the board in all these categories. There is one item that is going to be built quite a bit more than the others, and in a lot of categories there's one item that is going to be hyper niche to the point where only 1 or 2 champions will build it. In the last case, that was the Gale Force. And in this case, it's probably going to be Turbo Chemtate. We'll get into that. Frostfire Gauntlet, similar to Sunfire Aegis in terms of what it offers you. And something to keep in mind is Immolate is on every tank item. It's on all 3 of these. Which means the reason Sunfire Cape is currently such a crucial item is because it allows tanks to have wave clear without expending mana, and it allows tanks that don't have great wave clear to have wave clear. You know, champions like Poppy, champions like Shen, these tanks that can't really clear waves like, you know, a Malphite or a Maokai can, which, by the way, still builds Sunfire Cape. So that is something to keep in mind. That all of these items are going to give you wave clear. The difference is this immolate is going to be far more valuable when fighting champions. It's still going to do damage, but not much. So Snowbind is the passive on this one. It is just a Spellblade. Basic attacks create a slow zone for 1.5 seconds, 4-second cooldown. Enemies that move across the zone are slowed by 30%, plus 4 per 1,000 max health, which is interesting. I believe the slow zone scaled with armor previously, but now it's scaling with HP. This song is awful. Let me switch to just a better playlist here. Here, I like this one. Okay, this, is an item that is going to be built on the champions that we're building Iceborne Gauntlet for. But the thing is champions that we're building Iceborne Gauntlet, we're often building it with Sunfire Cape. Champions like Poppy, champions like... Who else builds Iceborne Gauntlet? I'm blanking on that. I can't think of any. But the difference now is that it has the wave clear that Sunfire Cape gave you built in, which means in a way this item will be like building Sunfire Cape and Iceborne Gauntlet. Ornn is another champion that will probably build something like this. Champions that like those two items together will like Frostfire Gauntlet. Now champions that didn't build those two items together probably won't build it. And then it grants all other items, legendary items 100 HP. It increases your champion model by 7.5. That's going to be a big deal for champions that range increases based on champion model. I believe Ornn W is an example of that. Anything where the ability cast starts from the edge of your hitbox rather than the center, it's going to help. So the HP also has synergy with this, but probably not enough to even be noticeable. Turbo Chem Tank. Now this is, once again, it gives you Immolate, but it has Righteous Glory passive active. Grant 75% move speed toward enemy champions or turrets for 4 seconds. Once near an enemy or after 4 seconds, a shockwave is emitted that slows nearby champions for 40% for 2 seconds, 90-second cooldown. Now, the only champions that will realistically build this item are junglers. I don't think supports will build this item. It's too expensive for what it gives them compared to these support items. But any champion that was reliant on Righteous Glory will build this item, but there aren't many of those. Very few champions build Righteous Glory. And because of that, I think this item is going to be built very not often. Nobody rushes Righteous Glory, because the thing that Righteous Glory gives you isn't super valuable at this point in the game, and that's something we have to consider. Is every champion will build a mythic first item. These items are all intentionally far stronger, and that is for the amount of gold, than all of the legendary items and all the items in the game. You can also only build one, meaning you are going to want to build one of these first. And if it is not giving you a thing that you want right now, then it's probably not going to be that useful. I'm sure there will be champions that build it. It's unfortunate for junglers if they want to build it, because magic resist is not as useful in the jungle. Yeah. will build this. Duskblade of Drekthar. We didn't compare it to the previous, so Taint Mythics, this is the same, 20 to 40. So they changed nothing. They kept Sunfire Aegis exactly as is. This is the same. This is the same. They call it Berserker Suit Turbo Chem Tank. I'm surprised they didn't give this something more. This should at least have the highest base stats, because the passive is far weaker than the other items. I'm a little disappointed in the take items. The assassin items are incredibly fun and interactive, but these, I don't know. I'm not a fan. Not a fan of these. And as a tank player, this is very disappointing. Duskblade of Drekthar. With Duskblade, assassins can keep enemies guessing while wreaking visible havoc in team fights. Now, people are really freaking out about this, but I don't think this is going to be as big of a deal as people think it is. So it gives 55 AD, sorry. 18 lethality and 20 ability haste. Compare that to the others, which are also 3,200 gold. Here we have, instead of ability haste, we have Omnivamp on Eclipse, and we have more lethality and less ability haste on Prowler's Claw. So, Duskblade attacking a champion deals an additional 100 plus 30% bonus AD physical damage and slows them by 99% for 0.25 seconds, 15-second cooldown. When a champion that you have damaged within the last 3 seconds dies, this cooldown is refreshed and you become invisible for 1.5 seconds. Grants all other legendary items 5% ability haste. I'm sure some champions come to mind. They kind of just threw Kha'Zix's ult onto this. But keep in mind, you don't have full control over this. This is going to be most valuable for champions that do not have an escape once they have gone in. So people think of Kha'Zix when this item comes to mind, but Kha'Zix already has a way to go in, kill somebody, and get out. He will not super benefit from this. Champions like, say, Rengar, however, might benefit from it a lot. Maybe not as much as Prowler's Claw, which is named after, has a very Rengar name, so you can imagine where that's going. Potentially Talon, but Talon wants to be able to get out after he's gotten in anyway with the walls, so maybe Talon won't benefit from that as much. I don't think Zed will build it because of the same reasons. He's highly mobile. So maybe there are champions that will become a lethality user because of this. Champions that were previously just building physical damage might benefit from it. But I don't know who. I think this is the weakest of the three items, despite the attention it has gotten. CDR is weird for assassins. CDR is not something that you think of when you think of assassins. So let me explain. When you build in mid lane, you may notice that Magic Penetration and CDR are not on the same items. That is because with Magic Penetration, you are going to be casting fewer spells that are going to do more damage. With CDR, you're going to be casting more spells that are going to be doing less damage. So CDR is going to spec you toward a more DPS heavy build, while Lethality or Magic Pen is going to spec you toward a more burst heavy build, right? So Ability Haste doesn't necessarily give assassins a lot of what they need. So I'm sure there will be champions that build this, but I don't know who. I don't think Bruisers are going to be speccing over here because there's a really, really good Bruiser item that a lot are going to build, so we'll get into that later. Let's look at how it was originally. This is different. Yep, 5 ability haste. Otherwise, it's fine. They nerfed damage rather significantly. Oh no, they just brought it to an early game. Otherwise, yep. So they made this more of an early game item. Eclipse. Eclipse is interesting. It gives Omnivamp. Hitting a champion with 2 separate basic attacks or abilities within 1.5 seconds deals an additional 8% max health physical damage. Grants you 30% movement speed and a 150 plus 40% bonus AD for melee champions, or 100 blah blah blah. Ranged champions shield for 2 seconds. 12-second cooldown for ranged champions. Now this is kind of weird because this is an item for champions that are going to want to stay in combat. This is a shield on a 6-second cooldown. These are champions that are going to want to weave in and out very quickly with low CDR spells. They get into combat, get out of combat, and then get back in, and their spells come back up. Champions like maybe Riven are going to like this item. I'm not sure Riven will, but that's what comes to mind. She probably won't because it doesn't have CDR, and that's the thing that's really interesting, is they gave ability haste to Duskblade and armor penetration to Eclipse. Now the synergy on Eclipse with ability haste would be much bigger because it gives you a lot of sustain to stay in combat longer. It gives you a shield, gives you move speed, gives you Omnivamp. So ability haste would be quite a bit more useful on this item, but they switched it. I'm sure that's probably intentional. But a little bit disappointing. You would think they could just curve back the numbers if it's too strong, but whatever. Gives you armor penetration. Also, armor penetration and lethality scale well together. That's really interesting. Let's compare that to 150 plus 40, 100 plus 30. We had 50 plus 80, 100 plus 60. So the 80 scaling certainly went down. And it looks like they halved the bonus damage, which is fair because that would be absolutely ridiculous, and they lowered the armor pen by just 1%. When I first looked at Eclipse, I thought it was going to be used on a lot of champions. Pantheon came to mind. Any dueling kind of AD assassin is going to build this. If this were an AP item, it would be really, really good on a lot of champions. And I'm disappointed they didn't make an AP item like this. It'd be great on Echo, it'd be great on Akali, it'd be great on Diana. But we have an AD assassin item, so I'm not sure who will build it. Dueling lethality users. Let's look at assassins. Don't know. Here's a champion that'll benefit from Duskblade. Nocturne. He'll ult in, get a kill, and then be able to be safe. It'll be really big. I'm not sure. See, this is actually a situation where this might be a situational thing, right? So we'll look at Prowler's Claw, and then I'll get into that more. Prowler's Claw was given the most lethality by far. Not by far, 3 more. 10 ability haste, 55 AD. But the most lethality. Has an active that's very simple, and I think kind of ridiculous. Dash through target enemy, dealing 100 plus 30% bonus AD physical damage. For the next 3 seconds, you deal 15% increased damage to the target. 60-second cooldown grants all other items 5 lethality. Wow. Compare that to what it originally was. Deal 100 to 200 plus 45% bonus damage. Physical damage, reducing their armor by 30% for 30 seconds. Grants 6 lethality. When I saw that, I thought this is going to be absolutely broken. Now that I see how much the numbers have been reduced, I'm not sure. But here's what I'm thinking. If you are an assassin and you are against a team with majority range champions, you probably want to build this item. It gives you a gap closer. Very, very short gap closer. About the distance of Proto Belt. However, no, about the different distance of Yasuo E is a better comparison, and I can go through walls. So, if you are an assassin up against a majority range champions, you probably are going to want to build Prowler's Claw. If you are up against a majority melee champions, you're probably going to want to build Eclipse. I think this is what it's going to be like. I don't know who's going to build this. I think even Nocturne might want to go this way. We'll see. Again, this is going to be something that's going to play out. I have been listening to a couple podcasts. Specifically, I was listening to Hotline League yesterday. And I thought it was really interesting how they were talking about how the value of statisticians is going to go up quite a bit in the pro scene because they're going to have to figure out all of these items. Now, I don't think that's true. I think mass amounts of data is going to be more useful for such a simple thing as far as who should build what items. But websites like Lolalytics are going to be extremely useful in the coming weeks. We get the mage items. The mage items saw the least change. They're not a whole lot different. Let's start with Leandria's Anguish. You may recognize Leandria's Torment. But this cost 3,400 gold. The mage items are more expensive than any other item we've encountered before. They're 200 more than the AD carry items and the physical damage assassin items. So Leandria's Anguish gives you 60 AP, 600 mana, and 20 ability haste. Dealing damage with abilities causes enemies to burn for 15 plus 2.5 AP plus 1% of their max. $15 flat damage plus 2.5% of your AP plus 1% max health of their max health per second for 4 seconds. Gain 5 magic penetration per second against burning targets up to 25%. Grants all other items 5 ability haste. Once again, we're not seeing the magic penetration. Probably would have gone really well with this item. So we're looking at really champions that were building the Andrews before. We're looking at Cassiopeia. We're looking at maybe Oriana. Who else has mana and does dot? Teemo? blanking on that too. Cassiopeia is what comes to mind first. This is certainly she'll be the queen of this item. Now keep in mind, you do have to be in combat for 5 seconds to make full use of this item. So I wonder if we see champions like Riot build it. I don't know. Riot won't build it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I got mages here. Maybe a Ziggs, probably not. Maybe a Vel'Koz, probably not. Looking for Anivia, certainly. Cassiopeia. Karthus. Oh, Malzahar. I don't know how I forgot about my boy. Morgana will definitely benefit from this. Not sure about these guys. Brand. Absolutely. Oh, Zyra, of course. Absolutely Zyra. That's what I'm seeing right now. So definitely going to be great on those champions. Let's compare it to before. 80 AP, 600 mana, 25 ability haste. We lost 5 ability haste. Oh, they very much changed how this worked. Wait a minute. What? Oh, okay. Got it. I thought they quartered the damage. No, it's the same. So this is over 4 seconds, and this is per second for 4 seconds. So they just phrased it differently. This is more clear. That makes sense. Gets all their legendary items 5 ability haste. All they did was reduce the amount of ability haste it gives by 5. I'm glad Riot has stuck to their guns for a lot of these items and just let them be broken. That's when players have the most fun, I think, is when they can have something that's broken or that feels broken, right? Because if every champion is really, really strong, then no one is. But you still feel strong? What I mean by that is if you are able to play in a way that the champion is supposed to play, you will be really good. Yeah. Luden's Tempest. I don't know where it's going to go with that. 3,400 gold, 80 ability power, 10 magic penetration, 600 mana, 10 ability haste. We're setting out 10 ability haste for 10 magic penetration, which I think is entirely worth it. Magic pen is huge. Extremely valuable stat because a lot of champions have less magic resistance than they have armor inherently in their kit. So, for example, the growth coefficient here, Oops. So we see 1.25 across the board for most melees. And we have some special boys with a little bit more. Silas, for some reason. I guess that was because they took away his magic damage shield, and then Meganar because he is the biggest of boys. Contrary to armor, which the growth coefficient you're going to see is much higher across the board, right? So magic penetration is more valuable the less of that resistance they have. Flat magic pen, that is, and flat armor penetration, aka lethality. Magic penetration is more valuable per number exactly because champions are going to have less magic resist than they have armor unless they are building magic resist, but you are not building penetration for champions that are building resistances. You're building them to kill squishy champions. which is why they took away the armor and MR from Immortal Shield Bow, because it negated all the magic pen and the armor pen champions were buying. It made you way too tanky. Damaging abilities deal an additional 100 plus 15% AP magic damage to the target and 3 nearby enemies, and grants you 30% movement speed for 2 seconds. Grants all of their legendary items 5 magic penetration. They finally made Luden's a burst item. They wanted it to be a burst item before, and it wasn't. It was a wave clear item that gave you the stats you wanted as a mage. Now is a burst item. It gives you less ability haste, more magic penetration, and it also gives you additional burst in your combo in general. The damage. This looks like it did not change. Oh, certainly the 8-second cooldown, 3 seconds, 10-second cooldown, 2 seconds. Okay, so you're using it less often. You get the move speed for not as long, but keep in mind this is not decaying move speed. This is 30% move speed for the full 30% move speed for that 2 seconds. So good. I mean, this is really good. You're an Oriana and you want to do some poke. You're an Oriana and you want to burst with your ult. This is really, really good. This is going to be good for a lot of traditional mages. It's going to feel good on a lot of them. I didn't compare the base stats. Looks like they're the same. Okay. Luden's Tempest, Everfrost. This is Hextech GLP. 80 ability power, 200 health, 600 mana, 10 ability haste. Deal 100 plus 30% AP magic damage in a cone, slowing enemies for 65% for 1.5 seconds. Here's a kicker. Enemies at the center of the cone are rooted instead for 1.5 seconds. This is not a catching item. This is a defensive item. It may be a catching item, but you're going to see, I think, a lot of mages use it defensively. That root is insane. That is very much going to... It didn't do a great job of letting you get away before because it locked you in place to use it. But a root is going to be worth that very brief animation. Grants, and here's the really interesting thing, is it grants all legendary items 15 ability power. What that means is you don't have to buy as much ability power. You could buy more defensive AP items. You want to build these together, but Rylai's is the first defensive AP item that comes to mind because it gives you health. But it is going to allow you to be tankier while not losing ability power. This is a great item for Vhagar. I can see a champion like Ari building this because she's a champion that wants to get in and do damage into the back line, which means she benefits a little bit from having some health. Anybody that builds GLP now will probably really like Everfrost because it does the same thing. This to Everfrost before. Looks like it's the same stats. 100 plus 30 for 1.65 seconds. Instead, they did not change anything on it. Wow. Hextech Rocket Belt. You may recognize Hextech Rocket Belt as Hextech Proto Belt with a Scooby-Doo villain mask on. 80 AP, 250 health, 15 ability haste, dash in a target direction, unleashing the arc of magic missiles that deal 200 magic missiles. 200 to 300 damage levels 1 through 18, starting at level 1, not starting at level 10, plus 15% AP magic damage, then gain 75% move speed toward enemy champions for 2 seconds. Wow. Think about how much ridiculously better that passive is, or that active is, than the chem tank. Monumentally better. Crazy. Same amount of move speed too. Grants all other items 5% magic penetration. It's big because Hextech Rocket Belt gives you additional burst. It's a big number. 200 to 300 is not an amount of damage to laugh at when you're trying to assassinate a carry. We're still going to see the fizzes, the echoes of the world build this item. I think anybody who wanted to rush Proto Belt will rush Rocket Belt. Gives you the same thing. We'll compare it to what it was originally. A 1250 15. That did not change. The price is 3,200, lower than the mana ones. The damage went down, but you get move speed for longer, and I believe the cooldown? No, cooldown's the same. This is good because this didn't seem like, with the 1 second, like it was gonna do anything. But so they lowered the damage by 50 at all levels, but they doubled the amount of time you have that move speed. So I think the benefit does definitely go to oh, they just straight up buffed it. It didn't have the AP scaling before. That's huge. Way better than it was before. I remember I looked at this and I was pretty underwhelmed, but this is quite a bit more damage. I mean, compare the amount of damage in this to Prong's Claw. 100 plus 30 AD compared to 200 to 300. Now you are not going to get the bonus damage to that champion afterwards. However, what's key is Prowler's Claw. Oh, never mind. I thought it also grants lethality. So this is a very similar item to Prowler's Claw. Very similar. Let's keep going. Riftmaker. This is my favorite item in the whole game. 80 ability power, 150 health, 15 ability haste, 15 omnivamp, 15% omnivamp. For each second in combat, deal 3% bonus damage, max 15%, at maximum strength. The bonus damage is dealt as true damage instead. Wow. Wow. So there's a lot going on here, and I am a Singe player, so this is an item I thought a lot about, but I think it is legitimately a very interesting item, and there are a lot of champions that are going to end up building this item. Think about champions that lost Gunblade. Akali will probably build this item. It's weird. So let's look at what it gives you. A lot of AP, just like the other items. 150 health, 15% ability haste. Now, this passive is what I want to focus on, because the champions that are going to take this item are already taking Conqueror. And this is what Conqueror used to do. It used to, at max stacks, give you true damage. Now it just gives you a lot of damage and sustain. But now you are going to get both of those things. You're going to get the ramping damage from this item and from Conqueror. This is really good because magic damage champions that use Conqueror struggle to fully utilize it. Unless your name is Akali. Singed, for example, really struggles to stack Conqueror because of the gate on dots, which is a very long gate. The only thing that's weird about this item is it gives you magic penetration. Not flat magic penetration, but percent magic penetration. Now that has a little bit anti-synergy with the other passive, which is that it gives you true damage. Which means this magic penetration, once you have stacked this item, is only going to be doing or affecting 85% of your damage output. So, that being said, it is still going to be fully useful for the 5 seconds up until you maximize your item, and it still is going to be, valuable when you have it. You know, it's not like you're doing half true damage. I mean, it's 15%, so it's still going to be valuable. Now, a thing to note is this is a sustained damage item where you want to be in combat for a long time, and it is going to be really nice for fighting tanks because you have to fight tanks for a long time to kill them, which is why the percent magic penetration is actually kind of nice. Going to be really good for those kinds of matchups. Let's keep going. Let's compare, actually. This was originally called Aximuk's Folly. They increased the Omnivamp by 5%. Looks like that's the only change. Love that. That's a 50% increase in the Omnivamp. That's a fairly massive amount. For sure. Night Harvester. Night Harvester is a good tool for magic damage dealing assassins and bruisers who want to work their way through the entire enemy team rather than taking out one target and bouncing out of the fight. Gives you 80 ability power, 250 health, and 15 ability haste. Damaging a champion. This is an active. Nope. Did they change this? They changed this. Damaging a champion deals an additional 175 to 250 plus 15% magic damage and grants you 25% move speed for 1.5 seconds. "60-second cooldown per enemy." That's that. Okay. This makes me think Vladimir, because Vladimir is doing all this AoE damage. He's one-shotting your carries. I think this is really, really good for Vladimir, and the 25% move speed is really good for him. Grants all legendary items 5 ability haste. Let's compare that to the old one. How long is this video? Really long. Looks like no change here. 175 to 250. 150. Okay, so a little bit more damage. They give it 25 more damage. Okay, that's a really goofy buff. It's like a mage's morph. I'm gonna build this. I can see Valkos with the amount of AoE damage he's doing in team fights. Imagine hitting, 3-4 people with your ult. It's gonna be a huge amount of damage. Dictor potentially? I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but no one else can build this item. This item will be balanced around Karthus, and it will be nerfed so hard that only Karthus can use it, because that's how Riot rolls. It's a good Trinity horse. 35 AD, 200 health, 35% attack speed, 10 ability haste. It has Rage passive, basic attacks grants 25% move speed for 3 seconds. The target is a champion, increase your base attack damage by 6, stacking up to 5 times max 30%. That is a base attack damage increase, which means it is going to have synergy with Spellblade, which only scales with your base attack damage. If you're not sure what that is, that means attack damage that does not come from items not named Trinity Force. So the damage you have just in your champion's kit, which is why Trinity Force is so good on the Juggernaut type champions like Darius and Garen, because they have such high base AD, insanely high. Now, that's why Trinity Force and Sterix Gauge used to be used together so often. I'm not sure who's going to build this. Well, I know who's going to build this. There are champions that I wonder. I wonder if Darius will still build this. I wonder if Garen will still build this. Champions that rely on bonus AD will not build it. Unless they're a champion like, I don't know this. Bonus AD, bonus AD. Okay. What about Irelia? Bonus AD? Base AD. Okay, just total AD. Corgi? Bonus AD. Bonus AD. Total AD. Okay. This is going to hurt a lot of champions. They really wanted to go full out in that, but they ended up just giving it 35, 35. Wow. Come on, Riot. Commit. Was it so weak? The 2? I can't even look at you. 5 less. So you nerfed the ability haste, but buffed the attack damage and attack speed so they weren't at 3-3 anymore. Never play this game again. Base stats grant 20, okay. Spellblade, just like normal. All other items grant 10%. Attack speed, it was 15. Okay. I don't know what this is going to do. I'm actually really interested. I don't know how the same champions that built Trinity Force are going to build this, but the whole thing with it giving you base AD is really interesting, because a lot of champions that use Trinity Force and rely off ability damage are going to be missing that. So I don't know how detrimental it will be. Probably not too much. Probably not too bad. I don't know how the relative strength to the current Trinity Force will be, though. And that relative strength is comparing Trinity Force to other first items currently, compared to comparing Trinity Force to other mythics. It's relative strength. Okay. Core Drinker. This is one of my favorites too. 3,300 gold, 400 health, 45 attack damage, 150% health regeneration, 20 ability haste. Health regen is a weird stat because its value varies so much in different champions because it scales with your base health regen. It's a really weird stat. Well, let's just look at the base. So you can see champions that'll benefit from this the most. First thing that comes to mind is Alawi. Let me actually break down what it does. So Thirsting slash active. Deal 110% of your attack damage to a total AD, by the way, not bonus. All the items and base to nearby enemies. Restore health equal to 20% of your attack damage plus 12% of your missing health for each champion hit. 15% cooldown affected by ability haste. Now I'm just going to skip to something here. We'll come back. But a Genius Hunter now affects all item cooldowns, not just actives. Cosmic Insight applies to all item cooldowns, not just actives. This is going to be scaling with your item haste and your ability haste. You're gonna have bruisers using this like every 6 seconds. This is huge. Gain 1% attack damage for each 5% of your missing health. So Trinamere Q grants all legendary items 5% ability haste. Here we have synergy. Big synergy here. 20 ability haste. Wow, it just 15, 15, 20. Okay, so we have some 20 ability haste. But still. This is huge. So let's look at champions that are gonna like this. First of all, Alawi. Alawi loves CDR. Essentially Pantheon. I think Pantheon will maybe spec into lethality with the Eclipse kind of build, but maybe he'll build it. Let's look at Prisoners. Okay, that's not helpful. Olaf. I'm gonna miss champions, but okay. How do I phrase this? Anybody that currently is stuck rushing Black Cleaver can now rush Gold Drinker. And Black Cleaver is a legendary item now, and it's way better. But Gold Drinker is the item that Black Cleaver rushing champions wanted, and they now have. This is insane. Renekton. A 15-second cooldown, even without ability haste, you can just weave this into Renekton's combo. Every time you go in with a W stun, you can just drop this active. Maybe you can even animation cancel with it. Think about what Riven will do with this. It gives you ability haste. It gives you ability haste. It scales with ability haste. Let's try Breaker. This is very niche. 300 health, 50 AD, 20 attack speed, 10 ability haste. Active, lunges short distance and deal 110% of your attack damage to nearby enemies, slowing them for 60%, 20-second cooldown, affected by ability haste. Dealing physical damage, grants 30 movement speed for 2 seconds, grants all legendary items 3% move speed. Literally, they just made this item for Garen. I don't know who else will build this. This is for Garen. Look how they changed it. Well, let's see how they changed Core Trigger. 33, 435. Same. Oh, they gave it more ability haste. And less. Nope, same. 100%. Cover 20%, 12% missing health. Champion, 15-second cooldown. Okay, they took out the AD and just made it 5. Yeah. That's more clear. I like that. I think the little bit of both is a little awkward. Compare Stride Breaker to before. AD, 20% attack speed. 10 ability haste. I saw 300 health. Yep. I remember 110. It was such a weird number. It was not previously affected by ability haste. Now it is. Glad they thought about Garen and made an item just for him. Divine Sunderer. Originally called Divine Devour, and they changed it a lot. 400 damage, 400 health, 400 damage, 40 AD, 20% ability haste, or 20 ability haste. I gotta get that percent out of my head. It has Spell Blade. Your next basic attack is enhanced with an additional 10% target max health physical damage. If the target is a champion, restore 50% of the damage amount. Grants all other items 5% armor penetration and magic penetration. This is a weird item. Originally called Divine Devour, they reduced the ability haste by 5. Now it used to scale with your max health. It used to give you 100 health. I think it was more interesting before. I'm disappointed they changed it. But this is what makes it really interesting. Now, with the change to Trinity Force, I think Nasus is going to not benefit from it as much. I think he will really like this item, and the magic damage in his kit will benefit from that. Shirelia's Battle Song. This is a support item that gives you movement speed, 2,700 gold, 350. I'm gonna continue this tomorrow. Okay. So it is the next day. I'm still wearing the same hoodie, but let's get back into this. Shirelia's Battle Song. Shirelia lets support players orchestrate flawless quintets by boosting allies' movements and damage at the start of fights. Now, this is really key, because I don't think this originally gave extra damage. It did, never mind. Okay, I was wrong. So, 2,700 gold, 350 health. Keep in mind that it is far cheaper than the other items because it is a support item. That is why I don't think supports will build Turbo Chem Tank because of the sheer gold difference, but we'll see. Even like engage supports like Alistar. 350 health, 20 ability haste, 5 move speed, 50 mana regen. No damage on that one, just some health. Grants you and your nearby allies. Oh my goodness. Grants you and your nearby allies 40% decay movement speed for 4 seconds and an additional 40 to 60 magic damage on the next 3 abilities or attacks against enemy champions. Grants all of the legendary items 2.5% move speed. This is really weird. I think this will be the least built item because it's only useful when going forward. The reason I say that is, despite the fact that it gives you movement speed, period, the damage is wasted if you're using it to get away. So we'll see. And I think the other 2 items are really bonkers. Let's compare the stats to what was previously 325, 10, 350, 20 ability haste, 5 movement speed, and they gave it 50 mana regen. 40% for 4 seconds, 60 to 100, 40 to 63%. So this got nerfed a lot. So maybe I'm completely wrong about how useful it is as an item. Maybe it's too good on champions like Leona. That could be. Lock of the Iron Solari. What did it cost originally? They even made it cost more. This is really interesting. I initially saw this item and threw it out, but you know, I wonder if Bard could pop it and just like activate it, like get all the damage in like a Q auto. I'm sure there are niche situations where it was just too strong. It gave you too much burst. And it also makes me think it could be like a snowball item. Because let's see what this builds out of. Kindle Gem, Fairy Charm, Winged Moonplate, Kindle Gem, Aegis, Kindle Gem. So if you're a support, you could buy a Kindle Gem first. And from that, make a decision which item you're gonna build based on how the lane is going. Lock of the Iron Solari. I think we all know what this does. 200 health, 20 ability haste, 30 armor, 30 MR. Grants nearby allies 250 to 420 shield decaying over 2.5 seconds, 90-second cooldown. Grants nearby enemy allied champions 5 armor and magic resist. Grants all legendary items a 2 armor and magic resist increase to this. So you have kind of a paladin passive. This has been buffed, I believe. 50 more health, 25 less ability haste. So originally they were giving items a lot more ability haste, and it looks like they've pulled back on that, which is good because I think that this new identity of cooldown reduction is going to be really interesting. And they've been trying to gate cooldown reduction. So you can, in theory, break 40, but it is going to be very, very difficult to do so and be very much less cost efficient. CDR at early ranks is far more cost efficient than it used to be, but it's going to become less cost efficient as the game goes on. 260 to 430. Looks like this got nerfed by just 10, decaying over 2.5 seconds. This did not change. Cost went down though. So this received very, very minor changes. Cost went down, but nerfed slightly, which is interesting. I guess the ability haste was just too much. The 10 shield probably is a non-factor. Moonstone Renewer. This one's ridiculous. 40 AP, 200 health, 20 ability haste, 100% mana regen. So already, base stat-wise, I mean, compare this to Shirelia's, just giving you 150 more health. However, 40 AP is a lot. 20 ability haste, 100% mana regen, 2700 gold. That's not bad. Effect Starlit Grace. When affecting enemy champions with basic attacks in combat, restore 30 to 60 health at the most to the most wounded nearby ally. 2-second cooldown each second spent in combat with champions. Increases this healing effect by 37.5. Maximum 150. Grants all other legendary items 5 ability haste. There has never been an item even kind of like this. Ramping healing for supports the longer you're in combat is crazy. Let's compare this to what it originally was. It was 100 gold cheaper. It gave less health. It did not give ability power. They just straight up gave it 40 ability power. What? It's really Grace. It was 30 to 60. But they increased the ramping. So, what I really like about this item is supports previously didn't have a huge reason to interact with enemy champions. Think Soraka, think Sona, think Janna. But now they do have a reason to. And we also have like supports like Brand and Zyra that are really just a carry without gold income. Well, suddenly, just by attacking the enemy, you heal your carry. This is going to be really cool on a lot of champions. And I wonder if champions like Senna will build it. Because it doesn't give AD, but neither do any of these support items. This has been added since the game started. Remember, I was in a game on PvE, and I saw a Hecarim with a talisman icon, and that's what this is. And it's really interesting. 40 AP, 200 health, 20 ability haste, 100% mana regen. Exactly the same stat spread as Renewer, but also the same build. Really interesting, same recipe. Abilities that slow or immobilize a champion deal 60 to 100 bonus magic damage, and mark them for 4 seconds. Allied champion damage detonates this mark, dealing an additional 60 to 100 magic damage, and granting you both 20% move speed for 2 seconds. Grants all other legendary items 15 ability power. This one I think is really cool. And the first support that comes to mind when I think of this item is Swain. If Swain lands your E, his E, it's huge. Think about what this item could do with champions that already like laning with Caitlyn. With her trap. You immobilize the enemy champion, you get bonus damage. Caitlyn lands her trap down, she triggers the rest of your bonus damage. And it grants all other legendary items 15 ability power. Now, I mentioned champions like Brand and Zyra here. This is really good for those champions. It's giving you the ability power you want. It has synergy with your kit. It helps you do the thing you already want to do better. There's nothing to compare it to. We also have stat updates, ability haste. Basically the difference between ability haste previously and now. CDR scaled exponentially, despite the fact that it costs the same amount of gold to go from 10% to 20% to 30% to 40% CDR. It benefit you more as you built more. The gold efficiency of CDR became higher and higher the more CDR you built. However, now it is more of a linear instead of exponential spread, meaning you are going to benefit more from buying CDR early compared to before. Now, because it is linear, you are going to benefit just as much from going from 10 to 20 as you would from 30 to 40. It's not like it has diminishing returns. However, you are not forced to spec into 40% CDR if you want optimal builds anymore, which is the case for a lot of mages, a lot of tanks, a lot of supports. Items that your first item gives you 20% CDR. So beyond that point, buying CDR is extremely effective, and that is no longer the case. So I think this is really good. I think it's going to be an interesting balance situation, especially with the items to scale with ability haste. And we already got into that. Vamp effects have been updated a little bit. Lifesteal now includes on hit effects. I thought it did before. I'm really confused about this because as far as I know, like Ezreal Q always benefit from lifesteal. Let's read this. The big change here is that lifesteal now counts physical damage dealt by on-hit effects. So the idea is heal from your attacks. So does that mean only the basic attack damage applied lifesteal? It's like Ezreal Q. That means that this did not benefit from lifesteal. Your attack damage, 100% of your AD, the auto attack, because this does this plus an auto attack's worth of damage, right? So only the auto attack's worth of damage benefit from lifesteal. Wait. Oh. So Ezreal's Q is a special case. Got it. Okay. Physical vamp heal from physical damage, right? This is not changed. And pet damage. I don't know how this changed. Omnivamp is unchanged. Critical Strike. I don't know anything about that. The Collector. This is a weird item. Total cost 3,000 gold, Serrated Dirk plus Pickaxe plus Cloak of Agility plus 425 gold, 50 AD, 20% crit strike chance, 12 lethality. Dealing damage that would take an enemy below 5% health, executes them. Killing champion kills grant an additional 25 gold. Let's look at the gold efficiency of this item. I love those surprise dolls. Collector is 82% gold efficient. Meaning this passive has to be worth 540 gold. So if we just looked at champion kills, I mean, you would have to get over 10 kills for this to net you, like for this to be worth. However, it does reduce, think of it as all enemy champions have 5% less health. That's really all it comes down to. But that only applies if you are doing the damage once they have 5% or less health. So if you take them down to 50 and then somebody else starts attacking them, well, it doesn't do anything. I think this item is going to have to see buffs. Unless this combo is just so valuable of a stat spread that people are going to build it anyway. I think Draven, I think this Fortune. I have no idea. So we'll see how that goes. 1 second. Okay, Navori Quick Blades. They cost 34. Let's compare Collector to previously. 3,000 gold, 45 AD, 20%. So it has been buffed in the AD department and nerfed in the lethality department. The more I think about this, the more I wonder if just having an item that gives you crit and lethality is going to be super valuable. And I'm sure if anybody's going to build it, it is going to be Draven. It is going to be Misfortune. So we'll see. Navori Quick Blades, 3,400 gold. So it costs as much as like a mythic item. 60 AD, 20% critical strike, 30 ability haste. Your critical strikes with basic attacks reduce your non-ultimate ability cooldowns by 20% of their remaining cooldown. This is old Essence Reaver. So it gives critical strike chance, but I think a lot of non-crit users are going to build this item. Wukong comes to mind. A lot of crit users are going to build this item. Tryndamere comes to mind. Like, this item is built for Tryndamere. Think about this with like a Tryndamere with one of the crit items, and then building this is going to be wild. Insane. Plus a 30 ability haste. We have not yet seen an item to give 30 ability haste. This so far has given more cooldown reduction than any of the mythics. Let's compare this item to before. 60, 80, 20, 30. That has not changed. Nothing has changed. Now, in terms of gold efficiency, oh no! We're looking at 108%. So in terms of stats, this item pays for itself. But it also gives you a crazy good passive. Interesting. Just looking at it, this item is going to make some champions really good. Lucian is going to love this item. Tryndamere is going to love this item. Maybe Master Yi loves this item. I don't know. We'll see. Quinn might like it. Now keep in mind, this is only critical strikes with basic attacks, reduce non-ultimate ability cooldowns by 20%, okay? So if you're not critting, you're not reducing your cooldowns. So if we build this, you know, in tandem with one of the mythics, you're looking at 40% of your auto attacks will reduce your cooldowns by 20% of their remaining cooldown, not 20% of their total cooldown. Critting 5 times will not reset a cooldown, right? If you have 80% of your cooldown remaining, it is going to reduce the cooldown by 20% of 80%. That being said, it's still going to significantly reduce your cooldowns. And champions like Tryndamere are going to lose their mind over this item. Tryndamere is not going to have 40% crit at this point. Tryndamere is going to have, you know, 80, 90% crit with his Rage Bar filled. So, that's insane. And he's already reducing the cooldown of his E when he crits anyway. So he's going to be spinning all over the place. Force of Nature. I recognize this item. Negatron Cloak, Wing Moon Plate, Ruby Crystal, 60 MR, 5 movement speed, 350 health. Taking damage from abilities grants you 6 movement speed and 4 magic resist for 5 seconds. They made this item so people can finally chase Singed. I don't know if dots... Okay, never mind. So dots won't just stack this item. I'm not sure when this item is going to be built. Dr. Mundo comes to mind because this is basically his passive. Except for the longer you've been in combat, the more mentor assist you get with Mundo. But it also grants you up to 30 move speed, plus 5%. This is a niche item. It has ramping magic resist. I don't know when you're going to build this. This is weird compared to the original. 29. It's been buffed in terms of magic resist. It has been nerfed in move speed. This has not changed. Just some shit. I've noticed a lot of items have had move speed cut back. And they were really handing out move speed earlier on. PvE felt like Earth. Serpent's Fang. Anti-shielding. This is Blitzcrank ult. This is Aatrox passive. Basic attacks and abilities deal 50 plus 40% AD additional physical damage to shielded targets. This is good because we currently have very, very little counterplay to shields. We have anti-healing, but we don't have a lot of access to anti-shielding. I'm so sorry. 60 AD, 18 lethality. The passive has changed quite a bit. You deal 300% additional damage to shields. You don't one-shot shields. I wonder if that's because, so what makes me wonder is if the opponent had a 50 shield and you did 50 damage to them, would you do 150 damage through the shield? I don't know. As far as gold efficiency goes, it looks like it's going to be 80, 90, 70%, 78% gold efficient. So you're really going to have to be going up against a lot of shielding to want to build this item. This is a 4th, 5th item. This is, you know, the target that you are trying to kill keeps getting shields. They have their shield bow, they have a Lulu, and you just cannot cut through it. This is when you build that item. You have a specific target that you want to kill, and they are getting shielded. Oh, this also does not apply to magic damage shields. It doesn't work through Morgana, Galio, kind of things. Horizon Focus gives long-range artillery and control mages another damage alternative that loops into their playstyle. What they mean is it takes what you already wanted to do and makes it do more damage. This is a thing that Riot does a lot when they make items that they like disguise as makes the game more interactive and gives more playstyle options, but it really just takes the thing you are already wanting to do and makes you do it harder. I'll explain. Gives you 100 AP. That's it. Damaging a champion with a non-targeted ability at over 750 range, or immobilizing them, increases their damage taken from you by 10% for 6 seconds. Think Zoe. Think Xerath. Think champions that are leading their combo with a stun, maybe like Silas. This also says immobilizing, so that means slows. So that could be Riot users, but I don't think that really those champions are going to be building it. I think this is going to be an artillery mage item. Lux is another good example. You land your Q and then you burst them down. It's going to increase Zoe Q damage by 10%, which is pretty gross. Don't like that at all. As far as what it was doing before, they lowered the range, they lowered the damage. Gold is the same. What is it called? Horizon Focus. As far as gold efficiency goes, it is 72%. So to want to build this item, third, fourth item, you are going to want to be using it like every time you do damage. Lux, Zoe, probably Xerath. There's no cooldown on it, so as long as you are consistently doing damage at a long range, you are going to be using it all the time. Revealing them is also huge. Zoe E does not reveal targets. So, if you put an opponent to sleep and they flash away into the night, you don't necessarily know where to throw your Q, but now you do. Lux abilities already reveal targets. That's not going to help her very much. But for Zoe, this is terrifying. Classic Tribe. It gives you 30 ability haste, which is tied for the most. 70 AP, 200 health. Dealing damage with abilities grants 10 plus 20% ability haste movement speed for 4 seconds. This item converts ability haste into move speed. So you're going to want to build it on champions that are already stacking ability haste. Now the other option is if you are playing a champion that doesn't necessarily benefit from ability haste, but still likes items that give it to you, this could potentially be useful for converting that ability haste into something more useful. I was thinking about that with Singed, but unfortunately it doesn't really do a whole lot. And the downfall of my thinking there is that it gives you 30 ability haste, meaning that is another, you're wasting that too. So that is a lot of ability haste. It's going to be great on champions that have dots, because it is going to remain on you. I think Teemo comes to mind. Champions that want to kite like that. Champions with low auto attack windup. It'll be really interesting. Maybe Fiddlesticks. Demonic Embrace. 70 ability power, 350 health. Dealing ability damage burns enemies for 1.5 max health damage every 4 seconds. Gain 10 armor and magic resist while a champion is affected, and 2.5 armor and magic resist for each additional champion affected, meaning you can get 20 armor and MR from doing AoE damage. This is a champion for Singed. This is a champion for Rumble. This is a champion for Cassiopeia. This is the champion for Teemo. That's as far as it goes. If you have dots and you are a magic damage champion, you are going to want to build this item. This is Leandri's Torment. But Leandri's... What was that? What did they change it to? Leandri's Anguish is also Leandri's Torment. But this one is too. It's too similar where if you want that dot, you're gonna want to build both. They don't have the same name, do they? No. Okay, so they will stack. That'd be super weird if they didn't. Let's compare it. Demonic Embrace 80 or 100. This has been nerfed. 2%. This has been nerfed a lot. I played this and singed a bit on PvE and it did feel ridiculous. So it's AP was nerfed, the health was nerfed, the damage was nerfed. And you were getting 40. They have the armor match resist. Wow, they nerfed this item a lot. %80 gold efficient. This is still going to be really good on the champions that want to build it. But man, this is probably the most nerfed from concept items we've seen. This is crazy. Seralda's Grudge. This is a bizarre item. This is a Last Whisper item that gives you CDR and Rylise. Don't know who builds this. It probably would help 80 carries, but it only applies to damaging abilities. Meaning if your auto attacks do on spell, that's great. But champions like Kog'Maw aren't going to want Armor Pen because they do so much magic damage. As far as assassins go, many of them already have slows built into their kit. Kha'Zix, Talon, Rengar, Shaco, all already slow you. Don't know who's going to build this. $50, $30, $20. It's been nerfed. That's another change. Weird item. Super weird. I don't know who's going to build this. So many champions that would build this already have slows built in their kit. I have no idea. Misfortune? Then her ult would slow and probably get more people in it. But her E is already slowing you. And slows don't stack. A 30% slow plus a 30% slow doesn't equal a 60% slow. It equals a 30% slow. Darius is going to build it. I doubt his bleed will proc it. He already has Armor Pen built into his kit, and his ult is true damage. Olaf already slows you. I don't know. Auto attacks don't slow. It's not like a Frozen Mallet. Damaging abilities. So 80 carries can't like kite with it. Huh. Silvermere Dawn. This is a QSS item. 35 AD, 200 health, 35 MR. So it's an alternative to Mercurial. It's cheap. No, never mind. Not cheap. It's a QSS item. You're not going to buy it till 6th item anyway. So you're just going to be sitting on QSS. This isn't super useful. It doesn't give you a lot compared to what QSS gives you. QSS is really good. Count Punk Chainsword. This is where we get into the weird things. 2700 gold, 45 AD, 200 health, 15 ability haste. Dealing physical damage applies 40% grievous wounds to enemy champions for 2 seconds. If the champion is below half health, apply 60% grievous wounds. There is an AP equivalent of this, Chempunk Putrefier, which does the same thing, but with magic damage. Nope. Instead of being half health, it is with immobilizing. They gotta be weird about that. They can't just make it consistent both ways. They have to make it weird. Staff of Flowing Water. This is really neat. See, generally, one of the reasons why AD carries is so prevalent in bot lane is because support items are designed to help AD carries, right? You look at Zeke's, you look at Ardent, these are items that help auto attackers. Staff of Flowing Water, however, helps casters. 60 AP, 10% healing and shielding, 100% base mana regeneration. Healing or shielding an ally grants you both 15% movement speed and 20 to 40 ability power for 3 seconds. You and your ally. Think Cassiopeia bot lane, think Ziggs bot lane, think Syndra bot lane, Swain bot lane. All these kinds of champions are really gonna benefit from this. And here's something really weird that could happen. Combine Staff of Flowing Water with Instant Renewer. What if you have 2 healers in bot lane? What if you have some weird lane where both your bot laner and your support build both of these items? I feel like that's going to be kind of wild. Sona Soraka. Sona whatever that new champion is. Seraphine. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff with this. And I think unless there is specific code that prevents you from stacking the 2 together, as in you have 2 of these total, right? Both bot lane and support have these. This is going to be crazy. We have Sightstone back. Stirring Wardstone. It is 1100 gold. You have to be 13. This item can store up to 3 purchase control wards, and the item transforms into Watchful Wardstone once you have placed 20 wards. It upgrades to Watchful Wardstone, which gives you 25 ability haste, increases your stealth ward and control ward placement caps by 1, and it can store 3 control wards, meaning you can have 2 control wards out at the same time. It gets better. Vigilant Wardstone, which upgrades from Watchful Wardstone plus 1200 gold. It gives you 40 ability haste. 40. And keep in mind, I mean, if you have 1200 gold, you can go right from Watchful Wardstone, or right from Stirring, to Vigilant. And if you place 20 wards, and then back, and you have 1200 gold, you can just get this item. So in total, it is 2,300 gold and gives you 40 ability haste and 10% movement speed. That is not bad. And what does it add? Well, nothing. It just gives you those things. So essentially what you are doing is you are paying 1,200 gold for 40 ability haste and 10 movement speed. Let's look at the gold efficiency here. It looks like they don't have the wiki page put together yet. Unless it's just broken. See if this site has it. We don't have gold efficiency here. Anyway, I'm assuming this is worth 1,200 gold. For sure. This is huge. I wonder if junglers and supports will build this. I have a friend who's a jungler who was excited about it. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Do you want to be a support bot again? A ward bot in the jungle again? But anyway. Updated legendary items. I'm not going to read into this. This video is already insanely long. These are the same things, but have different things. Like, are just a little bit different. They have cooler icons now. They look like a mobile game. What? Did Titanic Hydra not change? Look at like just the pixel density of Ravenous Hydra compared to Titanic Hydra. These haven't changed a lot. Let's go right into champion changes. Oh. So balance changes. Rapid fire cannon costs more, gives more attack speed, it gives less crit. Same thing to all these items. I'm not going to go into detail here because these are not as important. These, you don't need help learning about what they do. You already know what they do. Jungle item changes. So you no longer buy upgraded jungle items. They function like the current support items do. Which is really cool. Smiting 5 times consumes this item and upgrades your smite to chilling smite. The thing that makes me wonder though is these are extremely slot inefficient items. Imagine if you have to sit on your starting item the whole game. I don't know. So some changes. Gromp no longer murders you in its first 3 autos. Killing Gromp now restores HP and mana in a similar way to Scuttle Crab. Gromp gives more XP early on. Gromp is tankier early on. Gromp has... Never mind, Gromp has less health. Gromp is now a ridiculously good camp. But all the other camps now have bonus move speed. They have more armor. They have more magic resist. And they have less health. I don't know why. Because, I mean, it's not like percent health effects are going to not be as valuable in the jungle now because they were already capped. Greater Merkwolf no longer has magic resistance. Has less health. And, by the way, these camps are zoom in now. Blue buff has 275 movement speed. They gave it almost 100 move speed. What? They gave wolves 75 move speed. Little wolves now have more health and no magic resist. Crimson Raptor, they gave it 100 move speed. It has less armor, it has less magic resist, but it has more health. To be honest with you, I have no idea what this does. I don't know why they did this. It seems like they're just moving numbers around. So I'm sure somebody smarter than me, who knows the math better, can tell you why. But for me, this is confusing. The movement speed, though, makes me laugh. It's going to be harder to kite them now. Now, they are going to have the insane attack windup they always have. But it feels like they are trying to make the jungle more accessible to new players. Which I know people get angry when Riot reduces, like, skill expression in different situations. But the jungle is so intimidating to new players that I feel like this is something that is a good change. Pathing is still incredibly important. How well you kite camps doesn't separate the good junglers from the great junglers, right? If you are a good jungler, you already can just kite camps with muscle memory. This isn't going to make worse players better. This isn't going to mean that, like, oh man, I've spent so much time learning that. No. Okay, so Raptors, Krugs, red buff, more armor, more MR, less health, just like blue buff. Does not have more move speed. Krugs, more armor, more MR early, less late, less health, more move speed. Again, baby Krugs are worth less gold. Oh, baby Krugs are worth more gold. Medium Krugs worth less gold. Okay. Rift Scuttler. This is a really cool change. 20 armor, 20 MR, 40% less than before. 200 less HP early, about 500 later. Spawns with a 60% max health shield. Shield breaks when immobilized. It no longer loses armor and MR when being immobilized, and it no longer restores health and mana. That is now on Gromp. So Rift Scuttler is no longer a camp you fight over in terms of making your clear healthy. Rift Scuttler is now entirely a camp that helps with vision. It's more dedicated to that now. The shield thing is really cool. I really like that. The reason I like it is it's so much clearer. You know, if you're playing the game, there's no visual indication that immobilizing it has reduced to armor and MR. This makes it very obvious. The giant shield goes away. I think that's a really good change. Epic items. These are just, yeah, I'm not going to go into these. The only ones I will look at Bobby Cinder. Okay. I want to look at Oblivion Orb. Oh, this is good. They did it. They finally just did this. They just made it a magic, an AP Executioner's Calling. This is huge. So previously, champions that did magic damage, AP champions, didn't have access to Grievous Wounds early in the same way that other champions did. If you're playing top lane, and you're playing, I don't know, Jax into Vladimir, into Mundo, you can just buy an Executioner's Calling. If you're playing Draven against a Soraka, you can just buy an Executioner's Calling. Orianna can't do that. You know, Teemo Vladimir can't do that. Now they can. Well, I guess Teemo could. Now they can. That's really good. I love that change. Other thing I wanted to look at was Tiamat. Was Tiamat like 1,500 gold? they have updated it. Yeah, 13.25. It was more expensive than BS Sword. This is good for a lot of those kinds of champions who want to build it. Iron Spike Whip. Oh, so they took away Tiamat's active and gave it to this item? Okay. What does it build into? Strikebreaker and Gore Drinker. So I think what this is doing is trying to prevent you from having to build Tiamat before you finish your mythic item. I think they are trying to help champions that need wave clear early, like Renekton, like Kled, like Fiora, not have to delay their mythic in order to get a Tiamat. I think. They replaced Catalyst with a different item, and I cannot remember what it was called. But they gave it Omnivamp, and it's really important. Here it is. This is what replaced Catalyst. 150 health, 20 ability power, 10% Omnivamp. And you ask, how did that replace Catalyst? Well, for one, it had the Catalyst icon before, and it was called Catalyst to the end. Catalyst, when you expend mana, gave you health, and vice versa. Omnivamp, in a way, gives you health when you expend mana. Really, really good. Insanely good early item for a lot of champions. AP health, Omnivamp, great stat spread. In a way, this is Lost Chapter for BF Sword. This is Bami Cinder for AP Bruisers. Phenomenal. Really good item. Love this item. Sheen no longer gives mana. No longer gives CDR. It just gives you Spellblade. Couple other changes. Also, Aegis is now crazy expensive and gives ability haste. Starting items. A couple big changes. First of all, Tear the Goddess is now a starting item. Phenomenal change. Means that a lot of these champions don't have to spend their first back on tier. Really, really good. Love that. Dark Seal gives you health now. I think they took away the potion thing. Yep. Doran's Blade gives now Omnivamp instead of just Lifesteal. Doran's Ring. This item changes everything for manaless magic damage AP users. 15 ability power, 70 health. Killing a minion restores 6 mana. Excess mana, all 6 if you can't gain mana, is converted to healing at a 50% rate. Meaning, if you are Vladimir, if you are Akali, if you are Katarina, if you are any of those champions, you can buy Doran's Ring and get 3 health when you kill a minion instead of wasting that passive. Oops. Now, here's something interesting. These look named. This doesn't. Unless Mana Restore is a named passive, I'm wondering if these stack. Could the triple Doran's Curse return? Fairy Charm is more gold efficient. Never mind, Fairy Charm is the same thing as it was. Sport item changes. This is interesting because they still do the same thing. So supports still have their naturally upgrading items and they have a mythic. And I have no idea what that looks like. Your tribute gives you now 20 instead of 15 gold. You gain a charge every 35 seconds. So they're allowing you to upgrade your sport items earlier than previously, trying to accelerate the game more. However, it looks like the stats they give you are not as high as they once were. Paladins is only giving you 20, so 50 less health, and then Bulwark of the Mountain is giving you 50 less and 5 less, 75 less and 10 less. Or sorry, so the fully upgraded ones just give you less stuff, but you get them earlier. Ninja Tabi, this got a new name. It looks like they're a misnomer now. Plated steel caps. Cool. Rest in peace to all these items who are now just different items. Some items were just straight up removed. It's just adaptive health, adaptive helm, which is actually one of my favorite items. Didn't feel powerful even when it was. Oh, it sure did. I was addicted to adaptive helm. Fiends, Frozen Mallet, Gunblade, Spellblinder, Roa. I hate this item. I'm so glad it's gone. I hate this item, and I hate this item. Rip Shiv. Thank God my friend is rushing this every game on Bard, and I kept trying to get him to stop, and now he can't. Bilgewater, all this stuff is gone. This is a spiritual successor, though. Conqueror. My least favorite rune. 2 to 5. You get more at max stacks. It gives you more damage and less healing. That's fine. That's fair. Legend Bloodline, now that every item get okay, so now that the first Edikiri item gives you magic resist, this item, this rune is going to be less valuable anyway. Gives you 3% less lifesteal. Ravenous Hunter, I believe, got nerfed to 1.5% heal to 1% on the vamp. It looks like now, like, auto attacks will work too. It's not just abilities. So in theory, you could stack these two on, like, auto attackers. This is Omnivamp now. Still, a lot of champions are now going to be getting, they're going to be speccing into healing with their first item. So, it's fine for these to get nerfed. Make it available to more champions too, that won't be speccing into that. Presence of Mind is really cool. Instead of giving you HP, or instead of giving you mana when you get a kill, damaging an enemy champion increases your mana regen by 1.5 to 11 based on level, 80% for ranged, mana per second for 4 seconds. Energy users gain 1.5 energy instead. It doesn't scale because your energy doesn't scale, it remains the same the whole game. Takedowns restore 50% of your maximum mana or energy. This is really cool, because dot champions are just going to be sucking in mana. Cassiopeia, Singed, those guys. Darius? Question mark? Darius is kind of mitigated. Especially now that he won't have mana from Triforce. GP. Every time he Qs you, we'll get some mana back. Misfortune. Could drop her E down on you and get some mana back while she does it. Ezreal. Every time he Qs you, we'll get some mana back. A lot of champions are gonna like this. It's gonna be a super annoying rune. Transcendence changed a lot because we don't have cooldown reduction anymore. So instead of just giving you 10% CDR, when you reach level 10, you gain 5 ability haste at level 5, another 5 at level 8, and on level 11, champion takedowns reduce remaining cooldowns basic abilities by 20%. Oh god. Boy, they're really chucking resets at us, aren't they? I talked about Cosmic Insight and Genius Hunter already, and how I worry about the items scale with ability haste, how this is going to affect that when you're just double dipping. Champion changes. I think people can go into this themselves. A lot of champions are getting changed. One thing to keep in mind, I want to look at Katarina. This is really big. Katarina lost Gunblade, and there isn't really anything to replace it. Which means, now, her passive does on-hit effects. As far as I know, this is the only AoE on-hit in the game. The thing about that is on-hit damage isn't reduced by 33% when it's AoE. Each one of those individual targets are going to take the full damage, and you are going to receive the full healing from that. Shenpo does on-hit. Shenpo is also an auto-attack reset, meaning you can auto-eat auto and get 3 on-hit effects off. Death Lotus. Magic damage, 25 to 50 plus 19 AP plus 22. So it just has AP. Your ult scales with attack speed, so it's doing hybrid damage now. You throw 15 daggers. So it does roughly 4 on hit effects. Katarina's gonna be able to play the Ring King now. This is wild. Katarina's entire playstyle is gonna change. That's crazy. Kale. Not concerned about this. More changes. Victor. Ah, this is really big. Victor now upgrades his item differently. This is really important because if he had to buy into it, it would just be delaying his mythic and he'd be really bad. So now there are different ways he can upgrade his item. He gets Hex Fragments from 5 large minion kills, so 5 cannon minions. 25 champion takedowns. Oh, okay. They changed this. This was different when I initially saw it. Victor harvests 1 Hex Fragment from minion and monster kills, 5 from large minion kills, and 25 from champion takedowns. He can spend 100 Hex Fragments to upgrade a basic ability. Once all 3 are upgraded, Chaos Storm is upgraded automatically. They also buffed his E and his mana growth. So he has GP. He's GP now. Between mana changes, we're giving the following champions plus 20 to their mana growth. Not singed. Other champion changes, I guess I had to separate them. ARAM this season. Cool. Awesome. That's the new season. I'm excited to play. I hope you guys are too.